Here you go, Alex.
Hi everyone, my name is Alex Eversezi. I'm an employee at the Arms Room. Just want to talk to you a bit today about Comcast and their political views and refusal to stand up for our Second Amendment rights. Thank you. So basically, we've been with Comcast over a year, spent thousands of dollars in advertising with them. However, they refuse to serve us any longer because of what we do and what we support. Now, they're cutting off a major lifeline for us. Advertising is a huge deal. You know, we're not Academy, we're not those big corporate stores. We're family owned and operated, which is fantastic, and that's what I love about us. Also, now, by them saying and refusing to advertise, put our ads on, they're basically saying that we're wrong. What we do is wrong. And they're saying the Constitution is wrong, the foundational pillars this nation was established upon are wrong, our founding fathers were wrong, America's wrong.
Comcast is wrong!
Do you agree with that? Who is wrong here? Thank you. So, we're obviously all in agreement. There's a petition going around, started by Ms. Heidi Thiess. So if we could all get that signed, it should be going around and making its way around the audience. If not, it'll be over at that table. We'd really appreciate y'all's support and really appreciate getting y'all's name on paper. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, it wouldn't even be possible to be doing this here today if it wasn't for the support of the Arms Room. I mean, I know they're in the gun industry, you know, but that doesn't make them evil, it makes them American.
Right.
You know? And they have allowed us out here, not just for the Second Amendment, but they've allowed us out here to set up our tables in order to register voters, because voting is just as important as it is to have a gun, in my opinion.
Woo! Absolutely. It's the only way to get the bad people out.
Yes, ma'am. The voting booth right now. You know, when people say, why do you need your guns? You know, why do you need an assault weapon? You know, are you going to kill Bambi with that? You know, it's like, just got to go, I'm not even going to answer that stupid question. Why don't you answer my questions? Why does the federal government, non-military, need 2 billion rounds of ammunition? Why do you need enough bullets to fight a war for 30 dang years? That's what I want to know. Then you come and talk to me about why you want my guns. If you can answer that, they cannot.
And they're illegal arms too, because they're hollow point.
Yep.
U.S. military doesn't shoot those.
That's right. But if push comes to shove, you never know. Okay, getting back on our agenda. We have another speaker who's still stuck in traffic also, but I'm going to this time introduce you to Heidi Thiess. I've known Heidi for 3 years on the Clear Lake Tea Party Executive Board. She has been a tireless worker for y'all on all sorts of subjects. She went and stuck her neck out and ran as a state representative, and she did a dang good job.
Yeah.
But you know, in losing in politics, it's not losing. You just got to stay after it. You know, if you don't do it, you get back off the floor and you go to the next thing. There was probably a reason that Heidi wasn't elected a state representative, because it allowed her to be a council member on the League City Council. Heidi brings a ton of experience, not only from her work as an activist in conservative circles, but she spent time in the Army. She's a soldier and a warrior as much as anybody I've ever met. Today, back when I was in the military, we were just starting to see women come in. Today, you meet them all the time. And I'd like to applaud for the service of our women warriors. Who says they can't handle a gun? My wife damn sure knows, and I know that she does. Without further ado, I'd like to invite Heidi Thiess to come up to you and talk to you about dealing with the Second Amendment on the local city level. Heidi.
You know, he just mentioned that our government has got in excess of 1.6, $1.8 billion rounds. And I said, well, how come they're trying to take our guns away when they're supplying Mexican cartels and the Muslim Brotherhood? They're going to take it away from us. Well, folks, I want to talk to, can you hear me? Because I feel like I'm echoing. Okay. I wanted to talk to you about the resolution that we just passed on February 12th in League City to protect and defend the Second Amendment of our U.S. Constitution. Now, I have some of my fellow council members here. You've met Jerry Bentley. Yeah, Jerry. And Todd Kinsey was my co-sponsor, Army veteran Todd Kinsey. And Andy Mann was also here, and I wanted to recognize that they were here today because and there's Dan Becker. Hey, Dan. Every single one of them stepped up to do something that has not yet been done at the local level. And that's probably the biggest criticism that we've had, is who are you to do this at the local level? And that's what I'm going to explain to you a little bit about today. But first, I want to talk to you about what is actually in that resolution. What makes it meaningful and what gives it some teeth. So in the first part of the resolution, I cite the 4 authorities that give us the right to do this at the city level. The first, as you can imagine, is the Second Amendment. The second that we quote is the 9th Amendment. Then we move on to my favorite, the 10th Amendment. And then, of course, we go to our Texas Constitution. And our Texas Constitution is unequivocal. It says every citizen shall have the right to keep and bear arms in the lawful defense of himself or the state. So whereas we, the citizens of League City, this is a very important issue to us. We have been known to have the highest number of CHLs per capita in the entire state of Texas. So considering how well-armed Texans are, that's got to say something. So this is the section that is probably the most controversial, and you can read the resolution in totality on my website and also on leaguecity.com on their website. The section 2, and I'll read this to you, it says, all federal acts, laws, executive orders, agency orders, and rules or regulations of all kinds with the purpose, intent, or effect of confiscating any firearm, banning any firearm, limiting the size of a magazine for any firearm, imposing any limit on the ammunition that may be purchased for any firearm, taxing any firearm or ammunition therefore, or requiring the registration of any firearm or ammunition, infringes upon Texans' right to bear arms in direct violation of the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. And therefore, any such law is not made in pursuance of the Constitution, is not authorized by the Constitution, and thus is not the supreme law of the land. Absolutely. And consequently is invalid in the state of Texas and shall be further considered null and void and of no effect in our city. We go on further to say that all agencies of the city of League City are instructed to refuse requests or directives by federal agencies acting under unconstitutional powers enumerated in the section I just read that would infringe upon our residents' 2nd, 9th, and 10th Amendment rights or other inalienable rights not here explicitly enumerated. Those actions give teeth to what some might consider a rather symbolic gesture. But folks, somebody's got to do it. If they're not going to do it at the national level, we've got to do it. All politics is local. So the main question I've been at, is this echoing? Okay. The main question that's been asked is why at the local level? Well, have you noticed that this topic is on everybody's tongues in every community?
Yes.
Everybody's talking about it. It affects our schools. It affects our police departments. It affects our communities and our cities. This is not a topic where a bloated central government is going to pass down edicts to us, because we're living this every day. Specifically, in the wake of the tragedy in December, this is affecting our children. So you have elected representatives at every level of government, and who is the closest to you? Who can you reach out and touch and see in the grocery stores, see at the gas station, talk to at the PTA meetings? That is your local city council. We are your closest elected representatives. And what most people may not realize is that when we're sworn in as your closest elected official, we swear an oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. Now, that's really, really close to the oath that I swore in the U.S. Army, and that our veterans swore when they chose to serve. Very, very close. And those oaths don't expire, do they? No. Oh, my veterans out there, has your oath ever expired? No. Indeed not. So when we're looking at your local elected officials and they swear such an oath, would you be confident in someone who had no intention of upholding it? No. So they swear such an oath. Hold them accountable. This is not an untouchable issue at your city level. This is affecting us every day. It's our right to take a stand at our city level. Our government was set up to be representative where the power resides in the people. Therefore, the closest representatives to them probably have the weightiest responsibility to respond to the concerns of the people. And this is one of your concerns, is it not?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so the Second Amendment, I do believe we all agree that this is a right that is inalienable to us. We are born with it. It is not granted to us by a constitution, and it is not allowed to us by our government. Would you agree? Agree. So the thing that gives teeth to our Bill of Rights is this Second Amendment. It upholds all the rest. It's not about having a right to hunt or to shoot skeet or to compete in shooting competitions. This is about self-defense. Yes? Self-defense from, am I on?
Going out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, it is about our self-defense from the criminal element on our streets.
It's out.
But more importantly, it's self-defense from the criminal element in our own government. The criminal element in our own government, they wish to be masters of a helpless people. And make no mistake, that's what this is about. This is about control. It's our civic duty to act, and anything less is an abdication of that sworn oath that I just discussed with you. And we have to act fast, because right now the entire debate and the conversation and the information and misinformation is being controlled by a complicit media that is advancing an agenda that we know where it goes. I'm going to quote Janet Reno here. Janet Reno said, "This is not about registration. Registration is only the first step, then confiscation, then prohibition." That's where we're going with these executive actions. In every state, in every community, more and more legislation is being filed, and it is snowballing quick. That's why we decided to act in Lake City.
We're going to educate them.
We're the ones that have to be proactive. We're the ones that have to take bold measures while we can still pick the time and the place and the extent of our own resistance. That is our choice, and that is our right. If we wait until the feds overstep their bounds, then it's already too late. Wouldn't you agree? Yes. Once they show up on your doorstep, It's going to be too late to take a stand. Our police will be forced to stand alone, and I've discussed this with our chief of police, and in League City we are so fortunate to have our first responders, many of them being veterans, and every single one of them is crystal clear on what is constitutional law and what is unconstitutional law. We are urging our government to follow the law. We are not advocating chaos and lawlessness. We are asking them to follow the law of the land, because it is our right. Should they step outside of the constrictions of the Constitution, it is our right to not comply. So folks, it doesn't cost us anything to take a stand today. It doesn't cost us anything yet. It does take a strength of will and purpose. In League City, as I said, this is our important issue. We have a high number of CHLs and gun owners in our city. This was something where we were not going to ignore the voice of the people. We were going to act on their behalf. I can tell you that we're not alone. Gonzales, Texas, of Come and Take It Glory, passed the exact same resolution last week. Tiki Island, right down the road, passed the exact same resolution. And it's going to go on the agendas of multiple cities across the state, from Friendswood and Deer Park and Webster, all the way over to Odessa. We have to start somewhere. This is a spark. This is where we take our stand and say, no more and no further. We stand here, and we have the strength of our convictions behind us. The simplicity and the strength of this resolution, and the two sections that give it the teeth, is that they really won't be needed until they're tested. And unless the government goes full tilt into oppression, they're words. There are principles on paper that we live and stand by. But once they do, if they were to go full tilt into oppression, then we've already got some bigger problems on our hands. So there is nothing to fear in upholding our Constitution ever. And to fear any retribution, from our federal government is to openly admit that we already live under a suppressive and tyrannical rule. So unless you're willing to admit that about Texas and America, then walk tall and take the actions of free men and women who refuse to be governed unjustly, because we fear no tyrants.
You know, we could have went inside the loop and did this, but nobody inside the loop has ever done what they did out here in League City.
That's right.
We're proud to make the stands where we make our stands. So thank you, Heidi. Thank you, League City, for being the first in the nation to take this down to the people's level and say, we are not having none of this. You can take your 23 executive orders and stick them. Now, I'm going to do a little business before we move on to our next speakers. We are out here working all the time. We don't take a dime. We don't get paid. We do this out of love, out of honor, out of a sense of responsibility to our kids. But it ain't cheap. So we got people out there with these black buckets. Please put something in it, and they'll help us continue on this mission that we have here. You know, not everybody gets up on a stage. Not everybody goes up to Austin and corners those rats right in their holes. Not everybody gets on there, writes a blog or anything like that. But every one of us has a dollar, has $5 or something, and we can put in the kitty to say, I helped make a stand. That's all we're asking. Thank you. We've been at this 4 years, guys, and we've been, I'll toot our own horn, we've been one of the more successful tea parties in the state because we're doing. Last Thursday, we held a Black History Town Hall in Texas City. Wish more people had came, but you know what? It was the Black history of the American Revolution. Nobody knows that. Nobody teaches that. We study, we learn, and there's a rich history there. When somebody says this ain't my country because I didn't help, they're wrong. They certainly did. We had a town hall just at the end of January on Agenda 21 to get the people to know what the heck's going on with our country, with our federal government and the UN. This March 7th, we're going to have a town hall on C-Scope. You'll find out that 80% of the schools in Texas are under the C-Scope curriculum. It is bad. It's Sharia. It's anti-American. And oh my God, it was bought and paid for by tax dollars, and they're selling it right back to us.
Right.
Oh my God.
Right.
So we're staying busy trying to do what we can as citizens, as Americans, and by God, as Texans, to do what we need to do. Our next speaker, Dan Blackburn, spent 11 years with the U.S. Secret Service. The first 5 years with the Uniform Division assigned to the White House operations, and 2 years as a firearms and defensive tactics instructor. Dan then transferred to the Houston Field Office as a technical support officer working on various criminal investigations, providing covert electronic surveillance. Dan is also a protection driver and has experience in a variety of armored vehicles. During his time with the Secret Service, Dan protected Presidents Clinton and Bush. Too bad he does a good job. He also protected many foreign heads of state. Prior to Dan's employment with the Secret Service, he worked as a deputy for Liberty County Sheriff's Department, and he continues to teach firearms and tactics and is a certified instructor for the state of Texas teaching concealed handgun license classes. Thank God we've got teachers.
Absolutely.
Dan,
hello, how's everybody doing today? Hey, I saw who had to come and take your flag over here. You, my man, right there. He actually left out a few things. Not only am I a CHL instructor, I'm also a certified NRA instructor, lifetime member of the NRA, lifetime member of the TSRA. I left the Secret Service actually several years ago. I work for the Inspector General's office now. So for me to get up here and say, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. I know we've heard that one, okay? I am actually here to help you. I want to help you. Unfortunately, I was running a little bit late today. Traffic in this city coming down 45 is murder. Speaking of murder, you know, we hear a lot of numbers nowadays. We hear a lot of clearly leftist agenda on how bad guns are, how dangerous guns are. Well, let me give you some facts, and let me give you some facts that the politicians aren't talking about. In this country, on an annual basis, there are over 5 million acts of violence committed every year. Right? I do my research with the CDC, I do my research with the Department of Justice Uniform Crime Report. I'm not going to make up numbers and not tell you where I get my information. The information is there, it's online, anybody can find it. It does require doing a little bit of math, which I know when it comes to politicians, there's a problem with math. They don't understand simple addition and subtraction. We know this. All right, so over 5 million acts of violence take place in this country every year. About 20% of those involve a weapon. About half of those weapons, so that million, right? About half of that is firearms. Okay? So we know for a fact, in this country, a criminal uses a firearm 400 to 500,000 times annually to commit a crime. And that's bad. And we know that's bad. On an annual basis in this country, around 12 to 13,000 people a year get shot as a result of a criminal using a firearm to commit a crime. In 2011, a little over 8,000 people died as a result of that criminal using that firearm to commit a crime. And that's bad. Okay, we know that. What they don't tell you is that good, honest, everyday, law-abiding citizens, just like yourself, men, women included, use a firearm on average 2.4 million times a year to protect themselves, to protect a third person, or to protect property. 2.4 million times a year. Does having a gun work? It absolutely works. We know that. Now here's the interesting part of that. Of the 2.4 million times a year that an honest person just like you uses a gun to defend themselves, 90% of those cases are solved by brandishing the weapon or firing a warning shot.
Yeah.
We know this. Does having a gun work? Yes, it works. And I don't care what the language barriers are. I don't care what the cultural differences are. When you stick a gun in a man's face, it says stop. Now, here's what I couldn't find in their research. What I couldn't find in their research was of that 90+% where they brandished a weapon or fired a warning shot, was the warning shot intentional or did they just miss? I don't know. I don't know. Now, it's interesting to note, ladies, and I see a lot of ladies in this crowd, I live in a house with 3 women. I have 2 teenage daughters and my beautiful wife, Gina. She's here. Ladies, almost 200,000 cases annually of an honest citizen using a gun to protect themselves, or women defending themselves against sexual assault. Right? It's okay to shoot a rapist. Shoot them multiple times. I'm trying to teach my kids, if that happens, you need to be doing a reload somewhere in there. So these are hard factual numbers, and these are numbers that politicians don't talk about, right? What they like to talk about is, well, 30,000 people a year die by firearms. And yes, they are right, about 30,000, right? 2/3 of which are suicides. And if you know anything about that, you know that a firearm is just a tool. It's a means to an end. Right? Those people would do that regardless, right?
Right.
So only about 1/3 of that is people actually getting shot and killed out of anger. Right? Now we know of those cases annually, around 30 to 40 people a year get shot by a good, honest, law-abiding citizen that has mistaken them for an assailant. And there's nothing in the world that can change the death of those 30 to 40 people. And that's tragic, and it's sad, but it happens. By comparison, law enforcement kills over 350 people a year on mistaken identity. I would contend to you, who is more dangerous, law enforcement or an honest citizen? I would suggest law enforcement is more dangerous. They kill more people than we do, accidentally, mistaken identity. 45,000 people a year die from auto accidents in this country. I don't see anybody trying to ban Chevy or Ford. Right? Over 3,000 people a year choke to death in this country. Did you know that? Over 3,000 a year choke to death. 170 to 190 of those die by choking on popcorn. I say we go after Orville Redenbacher. He is the purveyor of this popcorn. He is the cause of our problems. We still lose 500,000 people a year to heart disease, some cardiac event in this country. 12 to 15,000 of those people who die from a massive cardiac event die during or immediately following exercise. Dare I suggest we go after Nike or Reebok. They are the purveyors of these shoes that lead to exercise. There's a lot of ways people die in this country. Firearms make up a very small portion of it. You're actually 8.5 times more likely to be beaten to death than killed with a firearm. 8.5 times. I want you to think about that number. For every 10 people being killed by a firearm, there are 85 people being beaten to death. Where's the lobby for that? Where's the laws for that? Where's the agenda being pushed for that? It's not. I don't want you to raise your hand, but I expect where we are today, there's some guns in the crowd, right? That's okay. I got a couple too. Don't feel bad. All right. You should, because in this state, and that's one of the most fortunate things, as screwed up as we see how a lot of the rest of the country is, we live in a great state. You know, the folks with the come and take it shirts and flags, that's the original, like my teenagers would say, come at me, bro. That's the original right there. Bring it on. Bring it on. I would love to see this state move away from CHL. I'd love to see this state go to a constitutional carry state. I teach CHL, and I honestly don't mind if they put me out of business. It's not going to hurt my feelings. Frankly, I would rather take people to the next level beyond CHL, which is learning tactics. Right? If anyone has a CHL, if your instructor was worth his salt, he should have told you this is only the first step. Getting a license to carry doesn't automatically mean you understand and know tactics. You have to practice. You have to learn these things. Right? And I encourage that. I am very much pro-carry. If it was up to me, and one day when I'm governor, not that I'm announcing I'm running, right? But one of these days when I'm governor, there will be no gun-free zone in this state. So those are the hard facts, and I hope if you walk away with anything from here today, you walk away with the idea that, you know, these numbers that the left is posting, the numbers that the media post, they're not accurate. They're not even close to being accurate. They don't want to talk about the reality of it. And the reality of it is what we all know. Where guns are more accepted, where guns are more tolerated, where guns are present, there's less violent crime.
Absolutely.
That being said, I could go on, but, you know, I want to let Kevin Jackson get up here and talk. I'm going to turn the mic back over to Mr. Hewells. I'm going to let him introduce Kevin. I thank everybody for coming out today. Keep your guns. Carry your guns. That gun does you no good locked up back in the car. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. That was a great talk. That's some nuts and bolts of what it's all about, guys.
Yep.
You know, when Mr. Blackburn is governor, and I go to the Capitol to see him, I will be going through the short line, the CHL line. All right? Until he says we don't need any sneaking lines. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce Kevin Jackson. He's been involved in the Tea Party movement almost since the beginning, when he spoke to over 10,000 patriots at Kisner Plaza in St. Louis. Since that event, Kevin has written an Amazon best-selling book, Big Black Lie, Learn Democrat, as well as a syndicated radio show, The Black Sphere. Kevin speaks nationally as a political pundit on race and class politics and has graced the stage with Glenn Beck, Sarah Palin, Alan West, and many others. Kevin is a frequent guest on Fox News and other media. He's a fellow at the Robert J. Dole Institute of Politics, a graduate of Southern Methodist University, with degrees in not journalism, electrical engineering, computer science, and mathematics, all right? He got a real degree. Kevin credits his conservatism with a speech he heard Ronald Reagan give when Kevin was but a mere lad. He declared to his Democrat parents, "That guy says what we believe." Kevin's unique take on politics, growing up rich and poor, and becoming a management consultant to the world's largest companies. He retired from corporate America in 2009 in order to pursue his passion, you and your rights. Kevin Jackson. All right, thank you, folks. Don't get much better than your resume, do you? Y'all can see I'm not just a pretty face. Hey, before I get started, I want to make sure you guys realize how these rallies all across the nation, over 125 of them occurred. I want to bring my buddy Dustin Stockton of Western PAC back up to say a few more words, and then I'm going to get started with you. Dustin, come back up here, buddy. Give the big hand.
So one of the advantages to being a guy who kind of has got this whole thing started is I get a do-over. I realized I missed something important when I talked to you guys, and I wanted to take a second chance to get it right. I'm on a mission, and I spent the last 3 or 4 years of my life, with my whole life basically, dedicated to the Tea Party movement. I've spoken at more than 200 rallies. I've met thousands of patriots, and I've spoken in front of millions. It's an incredible honor and blessing to be able to do what I've done so far. And I came in with the attitude that I didn't have all the solutions, that I didn't know what was wrong, I just knew something was wrong. I believe that we have a growing police state in this country that threatens our freedoms. I believe that corruption is rampant inside Washington. And I allege that there are 6 banks in this country using government regulators to steal from the American people to the tune of trillions of dollars. I allege that. But I'm tired of words. I'm tired of just talking about this stuff. I'm tired of just looking at these things and not knowing what to do about them. I've spent a lot of time. I've built a lot of infrastructure. I'm surrounded by an incredible team of people. And we have a plan. We have a mission. And I hope you'll join me in that mission. And so my name is Dustin Stockton. And I'm not real comfortable being a leader, to be completely honest with you. But I've got a plan. I've got a mission. And if you'll stand with me, we can accomplish amazing things. Thank you very much.
All right, Dustin Stockton, my friend, and the reason these rallies are occurring all around the nation. So anyway, I'm happy to be home. I'm from Texas. You guys know that? A town called Brady, metropolis of 5,557 people. That's when I left. It could be 5,556 at least, right? So welcome to the Day of Resistance. Why do I carry a gun? Because I can't carry a cop. Free men do not ask for permission to bear arms. Because of your guns, folks, you don't greet people with welcoming, or konnichiwa, or assalamu alaikum. Because of your guns, your grandchildren will not have to learn any of those languages unless you want them to. America's gone from being the land of opportunity to the land of enrichment of others. America re-upped fraudulently on a black president, the anti-Lincoln, and Obama has led us into a new civil war that is a war that nobody can win.
That's right.
So how does it feel to be at war with your crazy brother? A liberal brother hell-bent on your destruction of your ideological beliefs. Imagine having a nutcase for a brother that every night when you went to sleep, he put a pillow over your head and your legs are flailing like this. And you go tell your parents he's a nutcase and they don't believe you. Well, that's where we are, and that's liberalism. Why would liberals want to ruin America? I'll best explain it this way. I watched a TV show about a woman who was certifiably crazy. She was on meds, she was imbalanced. And when she took her meds, she was balanced out. And she got pregnant, so she had to get off her meds. And that's when the fun began. Because she went on a hunting trip, she and her husband, and she shot him. Elk hunting. And authorities said that at the time she seemed more interested in how she was going to get the elk meat back home than she was her dead husband. She then had her dead husband's brother move in with her under the guise that he was there to help around the house. And in the show we learned that the shooting was no accident but a scheme to get $500,000 in death insurance. Then, to add insult to the tragedy, she was indeed carrying on with his brother.
Oh, God.
Now, I describe that as liberalism. It's skanky. Like the two lunatics, liberalism doesn't love, it doesn't know how to love. Liberalism only connives, and liberalism only wants to wreak havoc and have life go on. And these two people thought their lives would go on as normal. Liberalism, in case you're not hearing this, is a mentally disturbed woman who will kill you, take up with your brother, and then sit down for elk steak. Now, how do liberals accomplish this? They do it by identity politics. Okay? And I want you to imagine a world where politicians had to defend their positions with fact and logic and not emotion.
Well, that'd be rare.
Identity politics is the way politicians divide you. Gay or straight, black or white, rich or poor. Well, whatever you are, I guarantee you this. You are much more than any of those things.
We have never been so divided.
Have you had a situation where you were talking to somebody, then you mentioned one thing, and their demeanor changed? Yes. Maybe you told them you owned a gun. Maybe you told them that you believed in God. Or you believe that government should report to the people and balance its checkbook and not spend more than it takes in and actually spend less. You know, crazy stuff. One thing in a conversation was all it took. You tell one of those tolerant liberals that you didn't vote for Obama and watch their heads spin. Identity politics polarizes. How on goers green earth, can we be debating gun control? This is not a constitutional right, it is your God-given right. I know, I will admit this, that over the past few years I have become less and less tolerant of the left. It's like trying to appreciate the gorilla at the zoo, but he keeps throwing doo-doo at you. I tried. And I have to give a legal disclaimer. Dustin knows this. We have the same attorney. But I have to tell you that I'm not advocating hanging out with liberals in any way. It's dangerous, and it should be left to the professionals. But in not doing so, the politicians have divided us, and their goal was to divide us, and they've succeeded. Obama may be the best gun and ammo salesman in the history of the Republic. But he has ruined more relationships than internet porn. Lifelong friends and family won't speak to each other, and if you can't speak to friends and family, well, who's left? And because we're not doing that, we're no longer debating positions. We're not cross-pollinating ideas. We're not even pollinating their side of the aisle. The only time we have discussed these issues is when politicians can control them. We discuss things in the media. And you guys know how that goes for us. Are you talking gun control with any liberals? Most of us are not. My bet is you're not. So they hear media sound bites. They hear things like assault weapon. Funny that the government calls the same weapon that can be put in automatic mode for them a personal defense weapon. But for you, it's an assault weapon. To say that we have a liberalism problem in America is to say that the wife of Henry VIII died because her head fell off. Guns have two enemies, rust and liberals. We have incompetent people running and ruining our lives, and those who aren't incompetent, well, frankly, they don't do well representing us.
That's right.
Republicans raise the debt ceiling without fighting. We're at a point where they don't even bother to fight. They think we're irrelevant. 2013, though, folks, But time flies when you have your gun.
That's right.
Because when you have your gun, you have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if you didn't have your guns, you would not be pursuing happiness.
No.
The Founding Fathers knew this, and that's why they endorsed guns. And liberals should be thanking these great men, because these men and their love of guns allow liberals the freedom to espouse their idiotic views.
That's right.
If you're happy with the government right now, folks, you are out of touch. We have a government who wants to make it easier on criminals.
Yep. Yeah.
It's really that simple. Take away guns from hard-working, God-fearing, Bible-thumping, tax-paying patriots so criminals will have an easier time with us.
Right.
And I'm even shocked that the government allows for theft at such a low level, because it leaves so much less for the real thieves that are in Washington.
Yeah. That's right.
Government is giving you Obama tax, aka death care, and you didn't want it. Maybe you were into 75-watt light bulbs with your disco self. I don't know. Maybe you like only flushing your toilet once. Bye-bye. Government in Illinois is talking about taxing tennis shoes to raise more revenue. They've gone from taxing your butt to taxing your feet. What's left? They're going to tax your corpse. You know what. And they make you do all of this. They pass all these nonsensical things while you're armed to the teeth. Can you even imagine what they're going to do when you don't have a weapon?
That's right.
So the question is, how long is it going to last? Are you confident that you're going to have your gun in 10 years?
Yes. Screw that.
Wow. I am in Texas. Did you ever think growing up that you would be fighting to keep your constitutional rights?
No.
In America, for God's sake. We've defeated the Germans, the Japanese, a host of others who wanted to take away our freedoms, and our biggest enemy, our most formidable foe, turns out to be a bunch of caviar-eating, cocktail-sipping, anti-American, anti-military, anti-God sissies from California. Liberalism, folks, is worse than mad cow disease. And it's much more communicable. Look at Colin Powell. Colin Powell says there's a dark vein of intolerance in the Republican Party. Dark vein. And what the heck is that fool talking about? He got his job from a white Republican, and he was the highest ranking guy in the government. I don't understand this. So we spend time, guys, wondering how it happened. Why we can't sell the real America, the one that conservatives like you represent. The America that foreigners would leave their families, leave their lives, leave their everything they have, walk thousands of miles to get to this country. But let me tell you, it's because liberals refuse to sell what we see, what we know it is, what we believe. And the only conclusion that we can come to is that liberals really don't like the good in America. I would ask you, would you put John Kerry in charge of America's marketing department? That's what the State Department is. It's the person that goes out and sells America. But come here, check it out. You don't believe what you see here. This is America. You see John Kerry doing that?
No.
What about John Hagee over defense?